On the 29th of November, 1980, a young man in Duncan, British Columbia, left a handwritten note on the kitchen table for his parents. He told them he was boarding an alien spacecraft. He promised to return in 42 months. Granger Taylor was 32 years old when he disappeared. He had grown up in the Cowichan Valley, a quiet stretch of Vancouver Island where logging roads outnumber highways. By the time he was 14, he had rebuilt a single-cylinder engine from scrap parts he found or traded. By 17, he had restored a bulldozer to full working condition. No formal training, no mentor on record. He appeared to understand machines the way some people understand weather, instinctively, at a level that precedes language. His reputation in the valley was specific and well documented. Local mechanics and collectors brought him problems they could not solve. He solved them. A full-sized replica locomotive engine he constructed became a minor landmark. The work was not approximate. It was exact. People who examined it later said the tolerances were professional. They said this about a man who had never attended a trade school. Sometime in the late 1970s, Taylor's attention shifted. He acquired 2 large satellite dishes and welded them together into an ovoid shell in his backyard. The interior, by all accounts from people who saw it, contained a wood stove and a sofa. He ran power to it. He spent nights inside. He told people he was receiving transmissions. He did not explain further, and the record does not indicate that anyone pressed him. His family described a change in his behavior in the months before November 1980. He became withdrawn. He spoke about contact. He appeared certain of something, though the nature of that certainty remained private. On the night of the 29th, he left the note, took his truck, and drove away from the property. The RCMP opened a missing persons file. It remains open. The official reconstruction of what likely happened centers on the weather. A severe windstorm struck Vancouver Island that same night. Gusts reached destructive levels across the region. Trees came down on roads. Visibility dropped. Investigators and family members have suggested that Taylor, driving in those conditions, may have gone off a remote road. The island has ravines, old logging cuts, and bodies of water that are not easily searched. A truck and a man could conceivably remain unfound in that terrain for decades. This is the version the available evidence is meant to support. It is coherent. It accounts for the absence of a body by pointing to geography. It accounts for the note by pointing to a young man in psychological distress, constructing an elaborate internal framework around what may have been undiagnosed illness. Families sometimes recognize this framing. It offers a kind of resolution. The RCMP has not closed the file, but the working assumption, at least publicly, has not moved beyond this. The note itself complicates this reading. It was not frantic. People who have described it, family members, those briefed on the investigation, characterize the handwriting and tone as calm. He thanked his parents. He told them not to worry. He gave a specific duration, 42 months. That precision is worth sitting with. Distress tends toward vagueness. This was a schedule. The dynamite is a harder detail to place. RCMP records note that a small quantity of dynamite went missing from a work site in the area around the same time as Taylor's disappearance. This detail has appeared in accounts of the case without explanation. No charge was ever filed. No connection to Taylor was publicly confirmed. The record does not explain what the dynamite was for, who had access to the site, or whether the timing was considered significant. It appears, and then the record goes quiet. If Taylor died in the storm, if the truck left a road in the dark and went somewhere the searchers did not reach, then the dynamite is perhaps coincidence. A separate theft on a separate timeline filed nearby, preserved in the same documents by administrative proximity rather than investigative connection. That is possible. Coincidence is always possible. But the truck has not been found. Not in 40+ years of development on that island, not in subsequent searches, not by accident. Vehicles found in remote terrain leave something: rust, glass, a frame pressed into soil. The Cowichan Valley has been logged, surveyed, and built upon in the decades since 1980. The absence is not simply a matter of deep wilderness. It is a specific, sustained absence with edges. Taylor's flying saucer still stood on the property for years after he vanished. Photographs of it exist. It sat in the yard, the two dishes welded into their lens shape, the stovepipe extending from one end. In the images, it looks exactly like what it is: a hand-built object made by someone who understood how things fit together. It does not look like the work of a confused man. It looks like the work of someone who had a plan for it. His parents, by all available accounts, did not dismantle it quickly. Whether that was grief or hope, the record does not say. 42 months from November 1980 would have been May 1984. There is no documented account of anyone waiting at the property that month. There is no documented account of anyone arriving. What the RCMP file contains today, beyond the original missing persons report and the detail about the dynamite, has not been made public in full. The case is open. That designation means, in procedural terms, that it has not been resolved. It does not mean anyone is actively looking. Granger Taylor left a note that described a departure with a return date. The return date passed. No explanation for the dynamite has ever been entered into the public record. What was he certain of in those last months that the rest of us were not?